I, 28M, never thought I'd be writing one of these posts, but here we are. My wedding to my beautiful fiancée Sarah, 27F, is in 2 weeks, and I need to get this nightmare situation off my chest. Throwaway account for obvious reasons. Some background. Sarah and I have been together for 4 years. She's incredible, smart, kind, and honestly way out of my league. Her dad passed away when she was in college, and her relationship with her mom, Diane, 48F, has always been complicated. Diane is what you might call the eternally youthful type. She's had work done, dresses like she's still in her 20s, and has gone through 3 husbands since Sarah's dad died. Sarah always described their relationship as more competitive friends than mother-daughter. I'd only met Diane a handful of times before we got engaged, and she always seemed nice enough, if a bit flirty. She would make comments about how Sarah found a good one and better lock you down before someone steals you away, while maintaining eye contact a beat too long. I brushed it off as just her personality. When we announced our engagement, Diane insisted on hosting an engagement party at her house. She lives in a McMansion outside the city, courtesy of husband number 3's divorce settlement. The party itself was fine, but I noticed Diane drinking heavily and telling anyone who would listen about her wild days in college. Fast forward to last weekend. Sarah had to fly out of town for a work emergency, but we'd already scheduled meetings with our wedding planner and venue. Sarah suggested I handle it, and said Diane had offered to help since she has experience planning weddings, her own, multiple times. I reluctantly agreed. The venue meeting went fine, with Diane being surprisingly professional. Afterward, she suggested we go back to her place to review some details the wedding planner had emailed. She mentioned having some of Sarah's favorite wine that we could open. Again, seemed reasonable enough. At her house, she poured us both large glasses of wine and sat uncomfortably close to me on the couch while reviewing seating charts. I tried to maintain distance, but she kept finding reasons to touch my arm or lean over me to point at something. Then she said she needed to show me something in the guest bedroom that she thought would be perfect for the honeymoon. Alarm bells were ringing, but I told myself I was overreacting. I followed her to the bedroom, keeping a respectful distance. Inside, she had laid out some travel brochures on the bed. As I leaned over to look at them, she closed the door and said, "You know, I've always wondered what Sarah sees in you. Maybe I should find out." When I turned around, she had unbuttoned the top of her blouse and was looking at me with what I can only describe as a predatory smile. My stomach dropped as I realized what was happening. "Diane," I said firmly, "I love Sarah, and this is completely inappropriate. I think we should go back to discussing wedding plans." Her face changed, a flash of anger replacing the smile. "Don't be so uptight," Diane laughed, reaching for my arm. "Sarah never has to know. Don't you want to see if the apple falls far from the tree?" I stepped back, putting distance between us. "This conversation is over. I'm leaving now." Her expression darkened. "You misunderstood me. I was just joking around." But her unbuttoned blouse and the way she positioned herself between me and the door told a different story. I fumbled for my phone, pretending to check the time. "It's getting late. I should head home," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "At least finish your wine," she insisted. "Let's forget this awkwardness." Sarah would be upset if she knew we weren't getting along. That's when it clicked. She was manipulating the situation so that if I told Sarah, it would be my word against hers. And who would Sarah believe? The fiancé making wild accusations, or her own mother claiming I misinterpreted friendly behavior? I nodded stiffly and returned to the living room, making sure to sit in an armchair this time, not the couch. Diane followed, suddenly chatty about wedding flowers as if nothing had happened. I finished my wine quickly, eager to leave. "Let me refresh that for you," she said, already pouring more wine into my glass before I could object. "Actually, I should drive home now." I stood up, gathering the wedding documents. "Oh, don't be silly. Stay for dinner. I'm making Sarah's favorite pasta. I want to show you I can be a good mother-in-law." Her tone was honey-sweet, but her eyes remained cold. My phone buzzed, a text from Sarah. "How did everything go with Mom? She's not being too much, is she?" As I glanced at my phone, Diane leaned over my shoulder. "Tell her we're having a wonderful time planning. That would make her so happy." The situation was becoming increasingly uncomfortable. I needed to leave, but didn't want to create drama that would upset Sarah. Then inspiration struck. I'd record our conversation as evidence in case Diane tried to twist things later. I discreetly activated my phone's voice recorder and placed it in my shirt pocket. "Actually, dinner sounds nice. Let me just wash up first." In the bathroom, I texted my best friend Mike, at Sarah's mom's house. "Weird situation. If you don't hear from me in an hour, call me with an emergency." Dramatic? Perhaps, but I was genuinely unsettled. When I returned, Diane had changed into a lower-cut top and was opening another bottle of wine. Throughout dinner, she continued making suggestive comments, touching my hand when passing the salt, and reminiscing about her wild youth. You know, she said, refilling her glass, Sarah gets her conservative nature from her father. I've always believed life is for living. Rules are meant to be broken. I kept responses minimal and maintained the recorder running. After dinner, she suggested watching a movie, something adult, not the Disney stuff Sarah always picks. I really should go, I insisted. Early meeting tomorrow. Her pleasant facade cracked slightly. You're not much fun, are you? Sarah certainly didn't choose you for your spontaneity. As I gathered my things, Diane made her final play. She accidentally spilled wine on my shirt. Oh no, take that off. I'll throw it in the wash. You can wear one of my ex's shirts home. That won't be necessary, I said firmly, heading for the door despite the red stains spreading across my chest. Her expression hardened completely now. Fine, run home to Sarah. But think about this. Who do you think she'll believe if I tell her you came on to me tonight? I froze at Diane's threat, my hand on the doorknob. Her smug expression told me she thought she'd won. What she didn't know was that my phone had been recording the entire evening. Diane, I said calmly, I'm leaving now. I think we both know what happened tonight, and I sincerely hope we can move past this for Sarah's sake. What happened? She asked innocently, voice suddenly loud and clear. You mean how you've been flirting with me all night? How you suggested we could have some fun while Sarah's away? I've been nothing but helpful with wedding planning. I resisted the urge to reveal my recording. If she knew I had evidence, she might escalate in unpredictable ways. Instead, I simply left, the sound of her scoffing following me out the door. During the drive home, Mike called as promised. After explaining everything, he advised me to tell Sarah immediately. This will only get worse if you stay silent, he warned. I knew he was right, but dreaded the conversation. When Sarah called that night, I couldn't bring myself to drop this bomb over the phone. Everything went fine. I lied. Your mom was helpful with the venue details. The next morning, I awoke to a barrage of texts from Sarah. Diane had called her, claiming I'd made inappropriate advances and that she was worried about Sarah marrying someone so disrespectful. Sarah's messages ranged from confused to increasingly angry as I hadn't responded yet. I was still asleep. My heart sank. Diane had struck first, exactly as she'd threatened. I called Sarah immediately, but she didn't pick up. Instead, she texted, coming home early. We need to talk. Those 6 hours waiting for Sarah were the longest of my life. When she finally arrived, her eyes were red from crying. Sarah, I said before she could speak, I need you to listen to something. I played the recording. Every inappropriate comment from Diane, her explicit invitation, my clear rejections, and finally, her threat at the end. Sarah's expression shifted from hurt to shock to absolute fury. She's done manipulative things before, but this. Sarah was shaking. This crosses every line. Sarah called her mother on speakerphone right then. Diane answered cheerfully, but her tone changed when Sarah said I told her everything. Of course he's lying, Diane sputtered. Men always twist things. I heard the recording, Mom, Sarah interrupted. Every word. You tried to seduce my fiancé and then threatened him when he refused. The silence on the other end was deafening. It was just a joke, Diane finally said. I was testing him to see if he was faithful to you. Save it, Sarah snapped. I'm done with your games. You're no longer welcome at our wedding. Diane's voice turned frantic. You can't do that. What will people say if your mother isn't at your wedding? That's your problem, not mine. And Mom, get help. Sarah hung up. The fallout was swift. Diane desperately tried damage control, calling Sarah's relatives with a twisted version of events. But when several family members heard the recording, with Sarah's permission, Diane's reputation imploded. Her sister, Sarah's Aunt Carol, even revealed that Diane had attempted similar things with her husbands over the years. We're getting married next week, with Carol taking over mother of the bride duties. Sarah's relationship with her mother is on indefinite hold. While this situation was incredibly stressful, Sarah says she feels liberated from years of her mother's toxic influence. The silver lining? Sarah and I have never been stronger. Facing this together showed us both that we can trust each other completely, even in the most difficult circumstances.